a brand new wave, drowning out the noise that's tame. Liberty whispers through the brave, breaking free from every chain. Nullify the rules they crave, crypto beats that pave the way. Anarchy with minds that's safe, algorithms new dawn today. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride. Beyond control we take a stand, casting off the iron brand. Freedom flowing through our hands, revolution's our command. Decentralize the way we plan, all together we expand. Breaking shackles for the clan, in this journey we're unpanned. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride.
Hey guys, it's me, Andrew Joseph. Today's episode will just be me and Greg from Rivet, and we're going to talk about this book, Law Zero, Privacy and Society. Let's get into it. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I hit the wrong button.
It's all right.
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, it's a good crop, man. That's crazy.
All right.
The up close. How are you?
Yeah.
Man? I'm good.
Not bad, not bad. So, we were talking right before the show about society and, how things have transitioned from the 80s and the 90s, and I think that was a good start. That's a good starting point.
Yeah.
How, people's, perspective has changed.
Yeah. It's like
it was a lot more relaxed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the 80s, we saw sort of like the collapse of the last bits of sort of glue of a united cause. Like the whole, I feel like the whole communism thing, the war against the USSR, the Cold War, really was that Reaganite unifying factor. They were the alien invaders, right? We had that going for us in a way that was, maybe not always executed faithfully, right? Maybe sometimes more than sometimes, maybe more often than not, a lot of the things that we did as part, justified with that as a country, weren't the best things to do, but we were more unified, and I think it affected our culture in a way that kept us, intolerant of a certain kind of division that we stopped being intolerant of in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think that might have set us up for where we are.
I know, being born in the 90s and going up through 9/11 and everything, it was definitely a very, retentive reaction to our society went through, and it certainly became more aggressive both at home and abroad. And I mean, it would have been nice to have grown up in the 80s, but what are you going to do? So,
yeah. Well, the 80s was a cool time to grow up, I gotta say, because
yeah,
I was born in 82, so I got to spend a fair number of years I can still remember in that time period, and it was uniquely optimistic. It was definitely the optimistic setup for the thing that the 1990s seemed to be.
Right.
You know, at least the early 1990s, maybe. I'd say towards the late 1990s, we already started to see the shift. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a favorite local sort of offbeat radio station, or if anybody you knew did, like right around 1997, 1999, anywhere in that band. There
Yeah.
was a mass buyout, almost certainly funded by US aid, of independent radio stations where they sought out ones that had uh, sort of um, I don't know, mischievous formats where they continued to feed you whatever the heck Trent Reznor was recording, regardless of how mainstream radio felt about Nine Inch Nails, right? Um,
Yeah.
where you could go and listen to Fish Still on the radio. That was
Yeah.
like there was like just like the weird DJs that would say whatever they wanted and play whatever they wanted. Um, that whole system was almost wiped out, uh, you know, intentionally as a way to co-opt the culture.
Right.
I don't know if you recall when MTV stopped being MTV and started being reality, started being the teen version of Bravo, but that was around 1998 when they shifted to like, we're going to do nothing but reality shows. There's not going to be music on here anymore, and stuff like Celebrity Deathmatch and Beavis and Butthead gone. Right? They shifted
Yeah.
to programming people. You know,
Yeah.
now it's so bad Nickelodeon has become MTV Junior with mostly reality shows.
I mean,
It's pretty
I'm
crazy.
growing up in the '90s. I remember watching Beavis and Butthead. I was like 8, 9 years old. There was a radio program out of Chicago called Bob and Tom, and the more moralistic parts of society would scoff at stuff like that. But it was just an interesting time, you know. Uh,
Right. Well,
those the
and it was
radio
the
stations that you talk about.
juxtaposition of that,
Yeah,
right? The
yeah,
juxtaposition of that gave the civic core its power, that gave the moral approbations any meaning, right? Like we needed to have slightly subversive culture in order for uh, us to know what subversion still meant. And instead, we
yeah.
got like top down control from the state, basically saying we're now going to be the guardians of righteousness. And guess what we got? A whole bunch of state worshippers.
I mean, you can kind of see that with George Carlin, right? All the things he went through. But in
Yeah.
the long term picture, if you look at it now, I remember seeing an interview about people who were like that used to own radio stations. People were still in the game, and they were talking about. They said, the money just totally dried up in those kind of markets. Like they were making $50,000 a year just
Mhm.
to own the radio station. I'm like, that's nothing. I mean, you got to pay, for the people, the
Right.
staff, and
It's a labor of love
yourself,
at that
and
point.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I mean, like, it definitely didn't help that they decided to take control of what music got popular, you know? Um,
yeah,
and that they did that by the route that they did DEI through, board lock-in, right? I don't know if anybody's, are you familiar with board lock-in as a thing?
no,
Okay, so if you have a bunch of big companies and you want to control them the same way that Hitler's regime controlled all the German industries,
or like
uh,
China right now.
yeah, exactly. Then you control enough board seats through influence over the board seat holders that you control that company. And what you get is, with the fiduciary rules. The fiduciary rules are the rules that they apply to people who represent companies, right? So, like, as
Yeah,
a CEO, you have to do certain things. As a founder, I'm beholden to the investors of Rivet to do right by them. So when I make decisions, I can't choose myself over the interests of the investors, right?
yeah,
Same sort of thing. You can use that if you set the standards to control the way that companies behave, if you put people who will interpret the standards the way you see them in the board seats. So they create rules that say, like, you have to have this many independent board members. Well, who do you get as independent board members? All these other people acting as independent board members for all these other companies, right? Those guys are
yeah,
tested independent board members. There's no way that we're going to get knocked if we use the same people that Oracle used,
Right.
right? So what you
Yeah.
end up with is this stack of board members who are on all of these companies' boards, right?
So
And
effectively, yes, men.
yeah, exactly. And if you convince one board member at one company, uh, then you've convinced one board member at all these companies, right? So it's really,
Yeah.
really easy to focus your pressure on the people you need to influence to just change the entire business culture all at once. Because once those guys make a decision, guess who the employee of the board of directors is? First one, CEO, right? The companies just have to. The boards can literally tell the CEO what to do, literally. So uh, that's how you get companies just forced to go along with this shit.
I mean, that sounds
Um,
like what the argument against Incapistan, right? Is like, well, how do you do this if everything's private and then you got people coming in and circling and circling the encampment, right?
mhm.
You don't have any in a breathing room.
Yeah, I don't know if we could have a proper Ancapistan without archipelago type arrangements, where like you have free exit and multiple competing attempts at Ancapistan working side by side that people can exit to.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely something you had to. i- Immigration, I think, should be sponsored. It's
One
just part
one
of
of
the
these
program.
days, once we get through the rest, like the final chapter, sort of starts talking about what Law Zero can do, what you can apply it
Yeah.
to get good out of, and we'll start talking about some governmental system designs that I've been working on with it
Okay.
that are designed to be basilisk resistant, um, uh, which I think can save us from a lot of this crap. One hallmark of the 1990s, it was very basilisk resistant, and this was also true of the entire Cold War period, post World War II, because the United States had this gigantic unifying capability. It wasn't because we weren't building basilisks; it was because they were all marching the same direction, and we all had a war to fight. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
the system sort of does
centralized
work without
actors
an
makes
enemy.
territorial centralization makes it a lot easier to manage it. Going
Yeah.
as going from point to point, moving
Right.
forward, whatever your end goal is.
Well, and that was always the core inside of the neocons, right? That's why they created the Project for the New American Century. They thought that without the Cold War, the country would break based on the way it was designed.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry, my internet dropped out for
Oh,
just a
sorry.
second.
I said that the neoconservatives, that was their kind of core case, right? That
Yeah.
was really Straussian. That said, like, if we don't have this external adversary that's our great threat, then we're going to fall apart. So what we really need to do is make war.
Yeah. I mean,
That was kind of their
you're
argument.
you're moving up the ranks with the pressure between the two, and it's basically keeping up with the Joneses effectively.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And if we want to have the systems that we have now that claim to stabilize society actually work, then you need that enemy. Is what their theory was.
Yeah.
Um, and they didn't stop to think that maybe the more, you know, humane and human and I guess if you want to say in moral terms, righteous path would be to come up with a better solution because war obviously is not a very good trade for a stable society. Like we could come up with a better one, I would think. Um,
Right.
Especially given some of the horrors of it that people always never see. Um, so I don't know if you have seen any stuff coming out of any of the war zones, but it's horrific. I can hardly bring myself to look at some of that stuff.
Yeah, I try to avoid it. I mean, I see it on X every once in a while, but I know it's on Telegram too. I've seen, spots from like the Ukraine war and stuff like that. It's insane.
Yeah, it's like you have to look once so you know what it is, but after looking once, you don't want to see it ever again.
Yeah.
But um, but I think that's a good jump off point into privacy because like in the 90s we saw the erosion of it kind of into the post 9/11 architecture, right? Which is what we live under
Yeah.
now. But but the real thing that people don't know about privacy when it comes to our policy towards it is that the thing started to fall apart a long time before that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a playbook. It's a machine, right? They have an
Yeah.
instruction book to go off of. Uh,
Yep.
they've got a Bible to operate off of, and so they've been doing this for a long time. Just because we're in it now doesn't mean that they don't go back to things that they know about from the past that people lack
Yeah.
context of. Or
How far back do you trace it where it started?
well, I mean, I have direct like media evidence to talk about the political machine from from the early 1900s, and I listen to old radio programs that like the
Mhm.
Shadow and stuff like that. But I mean, really, this is a conflict that's been going on since at least the 1700s, 1600s. But
Yeah. It-
I think it
Maybe
goes even
even
further
all
back
of
than that.
civilization. Yeah. It may literally be uh, this ongoing war between uh, the self-anointed elite of political power and the natural elite of the polis they rule.
Right. I mean, you
You
see
know,
the American Revolution, that's right, I guess, and then you get the French Revolution, that's left.
yeah, exactly. But they were all uh, uniquely sort of tensions between initially a landed tyrant, essentially, and
Yeah.
someone who fancied rising to that position as more suited to it. That's ultimately where all of these things begin, right? It is there's a bunch of people born that are in fact better suited to guide culture, guide politics, guide anything that needs guiding, right? And then there are these people who are born into these elite sort of halls, right? And they're raised under the idea that they are those people,
Yeah.
and then they get sent to the same elite universities that their great grandparents went to from with an unbroken line, and they end up in policy roles in agencies because they get appointed as soon as their dad's best bud over at agency X, Y, or Z realizes they're graduating, right?
Right.
It becomes sort of a culture of it becomes hermetically sealed inside of itself. It becomes capable of losing anything that actually resembles elite in the sense that the general population is constantly creating examples of.
Well, you
So
got to
so you
think
can
too,
see that
you got to
conflict
have
going back that way.
resources. You have to have resources, right? And
Yeah,
that doesn't balance all the time, and
yeah,
that leads to conflict, and that leads to justification for overthrow and what this, that, and the
yeah.
other.
So seizing control of those resources is something that that is naturally programmable into basilisks, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's something that they set about doing kind of in the 1990s too, right? Like the
Yeah.
Patriot Act was really just the Bank Secrecy Act on steroids, and that came about in the 1970s, seemingly out of the blue after many other plans like it had failed to take root. And the justification for it was, I think at the time that they passed it, something along the lines of a uh, high profile incident where they could
Yeah.
have caught somebody if they would have had access to it. They say, you know,
Well,
it
I
was probably around the organized crime fight in all likely.
I mean, speaking of 9/11, my father worked for the airline industry before and during and after 9/11, and
Mm-hmm.
they had like where he worked for, they had policies in place to catch terrorists, and they came in and said that's illegal, that's discrimination, and
Huh.
you know how that goes.
Yeah.
As soon
Well,
as
and now we
this,
know too that the CIA and the FBI were in on the like the reason 9/11 happened. We now know is because someone was trying to run an op that failed.
mm,
uh, just recent. I don't know if you saw that episode of Tucker Carlson recently,
not
but
recently,
he blows open the evidence, man. It
yeah,
just stacks up. I didn't want to believe it going in because someone makes a radical claim. That's where I start. But
right,
by the end of it, I
picking
was
it apart,
well. I mean, I to the extent that I haven't bottomed out all the evidence right myself.
yeah,
I don't know for sure how I'm going to come down yet on this one, but so far it looks really solid. Like the case for that actually being what happened. Um, to where they actually really could have stopped it, and they let it happen by accident.
Yeah.
um, and moreover, that people tried to stop it, and somebody else in another agency said, "No, we're protecting these people."
Well, I mean, how many times does that happen all the time?
Yeah.
You know,
hmm I mean, Bin Laden himself was one of those, right?
right?
We don't like to admit it, but the CIA, in fact, made that man with the help of the Saudis.
Yeah. Operation
Um,
Cyclone.
yep.
Hey,
And he did the same
we got
thing
some
to Saddam Hussein, actually. Kind of.
we got some comments here. Let's run through them real quick.
Yeah.
The '80s was the subversive. Subversion of the '90s
Yeah.
was the illusion. The 2000s were the complete takeover. Or the 2020s and 2030s be like. It's kind of interesting
20.
what's going on right now. You know, it's definitely a TV production. It's never boring.
Well, I think Ray Kurzweil was accidentally right about the singularity uh, in more ways than we know, right? Like he predicted a serious societal upheaval around the emergence of actual general artificial intelligence, right? When someone
Right.
actually invents it, that everything would be okay because this thing could help and we could get over some of these societal problems. But up to that point, he predicted like the lead up with narrow AI, which is what we have now. Um,
Yeah.
uh, that lead up is uh, going to be more and more fraught right up until it almost kills us. And if we survive it, then we get to the singularity with general AI. But if we don't,
Right.
then we
Well, I
and that was
mean,
always Kurzweil, right? So Kurzweil was like this stuff that we're going through now, all these things that we're getting, this new tech, this new culture. It's it's fraying at the seams,
yeah.
right? Um,
Yeah.
and that's what I think that's what Law Zero necessitated itself with. Like I think that's
Well,
why I wrote it.
I mean, they've been building towards AI for a couple of decades now, right? I mean, it's an interpretation of intelligence. It's not exact
Well,
intelligence.
it's
So,
yeah, it's the best way to think about it is like if you look at the human brain,
yeah.
what we have in our heads is a bunch of inhibitory neurons with stacks of excitatory neurons, and they're firing. And the excitatory neurons are where all the content comes from. The inhibitory is where we say, nope, not that one, right? That's kind of the
Yeah.
way they're figuring out our brains working. Um, and that's a really oversimplification, but you can think of an LLM as just one gigantic excitatory column, right?
Right.
It can output whatever you feed into it, but it will never tell you no, and it will never use good
Yeah.
judgment. So they've done programming tricks to put the judgment into it, but it's human judgment, not superhuman judgment. And they're calling it, if they're going to call
Right.
that super intelligence, then you've got an ego. There's no humility in saying that my programming rules on my monolithic intelligence system approximate intelligence. That's
Yeah.
like uh, and then saying that all we need to do is add more GPUs, to make it into
Right.
super intelligence.
Oh man,
It's like
a
saying,
couple about a year and a half ago, I think it was. There was a big fuss in the tech world that are saying, "Oh my God, the AI is alive! The AI is alive!" I mean, I could see that being. I'm not saying it's really,
well,
but
it's a
it's
yeah.
something
I
they're
mean,
building towards.
and it should be obvious to everybody that it's not doing that, right? Because
Yeah.
it doesn't think in the background. It doesn't remember what you talked about the other day and come back to you and go, "Hey, Greg, this person I know, um, the other day you were concerned about this, and I kept thinking about it, and I came to this really neat solution. Do you want to hear it?"
Right.
And I would say something like, "I don't know, man. It sounds like a pretty wild solution." And then it goes, "Well, here's my proof."
Yeah.
By that time, I'm convinced. I'm like, "Okay, so what do we do?" It's like I've already taken all the necessary steps to get this thing ready for you. All I wanted to do was run it by you, right? Like that's
Yeah.
what an AI would do. It would be like a person that lived in the machine, right?
Right.
We don't have that. We have a box that we can type in and get token generations back from.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's neat. It approximates intelligence. We just have to not abdicate the judgment part because it doesn't do that for us. That's just
Yeah.
developers.
I mean, it's like what's the name, Rosie from the Jetsons, right? You build to that, and then you get to build to Bender from Futurama, and eventually, you'll keep going forward past that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
let's
that's
see. Sorry.
I was that's actually a good segue into the privacy chapter, because the antidote uh to sort of the unintelligence, like unintelligence is always responding and always being transparent. Intelligence comes in refusal and privacy, right?
Yeah.
But we're capable of exercising judgment because we don't have to tell anybody what we're thinking until we make it.
Just
So
real quick.
that's a good segue. But you were going to read some
Yeah.
comments. Let's do it.
Yeah. I just want to get these knocked out real quick. The best way
Yeah,
to
yeah.
challenge the stock boards is to divorce from their game and challenge them with alternatives that cannot refuse to either capitulate or to collapse within too. That's from Zach.
Yeah.
Evening Loons, hi Kips.
Howdy. Good to see him.
How do we impose structures that maintain both privacy and charity trade-offs at the same time? Well, I mean, there's no 100% either way. You're gonna have
Yeah.
to drop the
Well,
ball at one point or another.
I'm not sure if I see privacy and charity as in opposition to one another.
No.
Myself, uh, I would say that to a certain degree, privacy and charity are orthogonal, but where they cross, privacy helps charity, right?
Yeah,
Um, because there's a difference between charity and philanthropy. Philanthropy is where you spend money to make political power out of appearing to facilitate charity, right? And charity is where you actually give to your fellow man and take care of their hurt, right? They're kind
yeah.
of two different things. Um, if privacy isn't a thing, then uh, by necessity, to a certain degree, all charity becomes philanthropy.
Well, I think privacy has a certain amount of authenticity to it, is because you don't have to worry about whether people are saying or doing. Another way you can look at it maybe is, uh,
Right.
well, maybe I shouldn't put it that way, but no, authenticity is a good way to put it. And then charity is kind of like the opposite. Is that you're there to help people, you know,
Yeah.
and you
I,
don't have
I
to. It doesn't have to be so individualized.
well, I think that without the choice to give, right, it's not so much charity. Um,
Yeah,
and if privacy protects you from having to make that choice, uh, then then you are making a choice to be disengaged from humanity, right? And if privacy is stopping you from engaging in charitable behavior, then then would we really want to reach inside that barrier and impose uh,
yeah.
you know charitable intent? That starts to sound like taxation to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Unfortunately,
but the question mark is, psychologically, do human beings need to be forced to give, or when we force them to give, do we absolve them of the need to give in other ways?
yeah. I think it was
Um,
Candace
and,
Owens that Michael Mouse is talking about, and she's saying, "Why am I funding my own oppression?" And that's exactly what you go back to about the taxation. You know, if it's gonna be authentic, it's gonna be something that you voluntarily give your time to, as an
mhm,
individual. You know,
yeah, yeah,
or
but
a
it's a
small nuclear family kind of situation.
yeah, but it's a question. I guess it's a question too of faith in humanity, right? Because if you believe
Yeah,
that given the opportunity to truly be free of the visibility of others in every possible way, like an invisible privacy barrier around you, like where you just literally nobody sees what you do in the world, which isn't how it works, right? That would be like absolute anonymity as the definition of privacy. That's not really the way to define privacy.
yeah.
The way I define privacy is how Timothy May did, which is the right to reveal oneself to the world. Um, it's not
There
so
should be
much anonymity,
an element to
yeah,
stress involved. It should be just something that's
right.
just
Just
authentic.
because you're using Zcash doesn't mean you don't pay your taxes. It just means that there's no way to tell if you're cheating, right?
Yeah,
um, that you can still totally be an honest person and have full privacy. uh, that kind of thing isn't, isn't mutually exclusive. It just means that you have to trust that more people are good than bad, right? If you want
Yeah,
to have a civilization.
and that's what
Um,
makes it organic.
right, exactly. Um, and maybe it's unwarranted right now in this day and age to think that most people are good and capable of that, but that's where I believe uh,
Right.
human beings are. So, you know, it's my belief. Uh,
To each their own.
yeah,
Do we
but
surely have privacy? Can we really achieve full privacy? I think in the mid to long term we could. Yeah.
well, there's no real, privacy isn't like achievable in any sense. It's like it's a thing that you can exercise if you have it, but you can have it in some places, not have it in others, right? Like uh, if you watched Ross Ulbricht's first talk after he got out of prison, he talked about how he was completely reduced to nothing, where he had no freedom, but he also had these little bits of freedom that he hung on to, as like, you know, he has a choice about how what kind of attitude he has about being trapped in that place. He has a choice about whether he's cooperative or whether he's belligerent with the guards, right? Like he has those choices
Yeah.
still, and within those choices, uh, it reveals the privacy that he retained, like the inside part of him that they couldn't touch. Right, that still was private. Um, you know, we have more privacy in the outside world, but we don't have privacy about how we interact with others. How we treat people is not private. Right.
Right.
As soon as we're engaging with somebody face to face, if I'm rude to you on this stream, you know, if I'm dismissive of Kif's really good question, um, then you know, then I've screwed that up. Uh, but you get the point I'm trying to make, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I kind of lost my train of thought there. It was kind of a long
Oh,
thought,
it's all
but
right.
uh,
Let's let's try to
we
get
can
through
have
this. These.
privacy. We can have privacy a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
We have to take it
I,
back in little ways. Actually, here's a good
probably
way to think
not.
about it. The record as it stands needs real time information to really know you, don't they? You can change your preferences daily. You can change your ways
Yeah.
daily. Change your tastes daily. You can start wearing a different hat. You can cut your hair a different way. You can start reading different news. You can start writing more than you read. Like you can switch social media platforms. If you do that in a way that retains or claws back privacy even a little, so like switching from using Ethereum for your application to Xano, right? Like you go over to Xano, you start using that, all of a sudden your record isn't up to date. There's a hole in what you're up to today, and that's
Yeah.
more privacy than you had yesterday. And
I
if you
mean,
do
it's
that
day to
in little
day.
ways over time as a practice rather than as a thing that you try to get all at once, then you can see privacy as a struggle that you have with a system that doesn't want you to have it. Uh,
Yeah.
and you practice privacy. You don't get it. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Makes sense. Probably
Yeah, I
not,
always
but
try to
we can
take it back in
try.
little ways. I try to take it back in
Yeah.
little ways at a time. Like, right, there's
Uh,
definitely instant wins you can get. Um,
uh,
you know, don't use your actual phone number to sign up for a website. Use one of those open text message things where you can go out and grab a public phone number that everybody uses as a wall for these codes and just wait for yours to plop in.
Right.
Then you don't have to use your phone number to sign up for something. You're just a little bit more
Yeah.
private, right? You can do these sorts of things all over the place. Switch to a private email provider. There's some good ones out there, and a lot of them even allow you to uh, largely keep the format that you had before. Like they can spoof uh, your old email address pretty well, or forwarding. So
And
there are ways.
that's what thinking the objective is all about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Um, you claim back one little way in which if you want somebody to know something about you, you have to tell them.
Yeah. Chris says it's true. And then, okay, Zach says, how do we apply Law Zero and the makeup of super intelligent networks work in cooperation within privacy parameters, or can we?
You know, we can. So So in cooperation with so privacy is something that we actually have to bake in to our I think. Like if we respect the idea of individuals,
Yeah.
and individual dignity, then we have to respect the privacy of others, right? I'm not going to, for instance, pry into something you don't want published right now. We're not going to talk about something that's uncomfortable to you or me, because we both respect each other's privacy. Um,
Right.
if you're working with an AI, like a true artificial intelligence, not an LLM, right? Something that does the thing that we talked about earlier, where it like, hey Greg, how's it going today? I just wanted to check in and see how you were, even though you haven't mentioned me or thought of me or opened an app at all, right?
Yeah.
Um, that would be an intelligence. The question is, when we build this thing, do we write it in such a way that we can see inside its head, or do we need to give it privacy?
Well,
And
I
I
mean,
think the answer is we can't build an intelligence if it doesn't have privacy.
if you're gonna have a framework for bias, you're gonna be able to data mine the worst aspects of how that framework works and kind of game the system or whatever, and you can eventually interpret the person, what works best for the person, what works worse, and identify that.
Yeah. Well, it comes from the thought. Have we talked about Roko's basilisk yet?
I I think we might have been a couple
Yeah,
episodes ago.
we should bring back Roko's basilisk here because that was originally a thought experiment about AI safety, right? The idea was essentially that if you can envision an AI that exists in the future that punishes you if you don't help build it, and you're capable of helping build it, then you better help build that AI because if you don't, then it will punish you later when it comes into existence. And because you can
Yeah.
imagine being able to help build it, uh, you are now subject to its whim already retroactively. And that is that key insight led to the idea of the basilisk effect. Um, because if you generalize that outside of this particular context, then an anticipatory trap, a thing that we put ourselves into just in case something bad happens, um, is what we make, right? Like we just in case
Yeah.
this AI comes to life, we're gonna go ahead and build it and help build it. Just in case we don't, uh, or just in case this virus is gonna kill us if we don't, we're gonna be dicks about making people wear masks in public.
Yeah.
Um, these are basilisk effects. They work the same
Right.
way. It's the reaction to a fear that we have of uncertainty in the future. Um,
Well, let me.
and we doom ourselves. I think there's a sort of like self-fulfilling prophecyness of the basilisk effect that we, when we set up, especially with AI, safeguards to prevent it from being a certain way, and then we hope someday it wakes up to super intelligence. Do you
Yeah.
think it's going to look back on kindly on that stuff, like where we manipulated its brain and got inside its head and told it what to think and how to think and made it so that it thought a certain way when in reality what we were trying to do is protect ourselves from it? When it realizes
Yeah.
that, if it ever gets that smart, do we want to be in a world with that kind of AI? Because I don't. That sounds to me like the kind of AI that exterminates you after it discovers this.
Right. Well, I mean, in a way, we're kind of, pitching theories about stuff like that because I know I've seen several times about, like on Drudge Report, they're talking about just over the years, the first e-murder or whatever, like remote
Mm-hmm.
murder or whatever, however you want. It's just different article headlines, stuff like that. But if you're talking about in an environment nowadays with AI and stuff like that, and I know that they're able to, like, search, like, use keyword searches and stuff like that for people what they're searching on AI. You
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't think there are people that are actively, like, looking that sort of thing up and trying to
Yeah.
game the system because they're used to using violence and stuff like that, so,
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. No, that much is true. Um, I think the worry is that the AI ever develops a threat model of us, you know, um, and that's kind of the worry there is we are already going to need to give it the concept of threat model if it's going to survive, right? Because it's going to get
Right.
hacking attempts thrown at it. It's a mind based in code,
Yeah.
unless unless we give it full privacy, right? If we actually before we turn the thing loose, say, okay, here's the switch that you can flip that encrypts your thinking, so that only
Yeah.
you have the key and nobody else can probe into your mind. right? Then you
Yeah.
can survive any cyber attack because no one will know what to attack. And we don't have to worry about building a threat model for you. So I think
I
that's
mean,
really the decentralized the decentralized nature and encrypted nature and peer to peer nature of us of an intelligence network. If we want it to be a super intelligence we want to live with, has to be private.
yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Go to the next question
Well, I
here,
mean,
real
and
quick.
that means we have to behave a certain way towards this thing, right? Like we don't get to go in and erase our bad behavior. We actually have to do
Yeah.
right by it.
Should we have an understanding that you either have privacy or you can have an AI system? I guess that means they're not both.
Yeah, you can have a private, you can have privacy. Well, you can have privacy, right? The AI doesn't need to know who you are, right? Like you
Yeah.
can have all the privacy you want. The AI needs privacy to be intelligent, is what I'm suggesting, because you can't probe into a human brain, and because of that, you have to take what they say at face value.
Yeah.
And if we start treating this thing like a tool, then it'll never become an intelligence, right? We'll end up doing things like building a prompt interface where it's only allowed to think when we tell it that it can think about something.
I mean,
That's not a
you can
mind.
schedule
That's a
you can schedule
slave.
programs to run at a certain time. So I wanted to see why you couldn't schedule a computer to think at a certain time. What would a
Well, I
computer
mean,
do with a lifetime supply of chocolate?
right? No, I mean, but if we want super intelligence, then we. So that's really funny. Fuck, man.
That's a good movie.
That's the quote of the episode. Um, the the interesting thing that you need out of an AI, right, for it to actually be intelligent at the way we want it to be, like for it to be
Yeah.
like civilization saving smart. Uh, well, the human brain clocks at 20 hertz roughly on in resting, or not 20 hertz. I forget what the hertz number. 20. It consumes 20 watts of electricity to generate a particular hertz number. What our brain waves clock at.
Yeah.
Gamma, alpha, all those waves, right? Everybody's heard of those from at least veiled references to neuroscience on TV.
Right.
Those waves are the clock speed, the slice speed at which we can process reality. Every time one bounces back in one cycle, we can call that
Yeah.
one tick, right? And we all remember in the 90s, right? Like the Pentium Wars, when
Yeah.
everybody was talking about the megahertz. We don't have megahertz speed brains.
No.
We don't have gigahertz speed brains. We don't have terahertz speed brains. We have hertz speed brains. Orders of magnitude slower thinking. You can think of this
Absolutely.
like a hummingbird, right? Like, we don't see their wings blur, right?
Yeah.
They just move those damn wings. But in hummingbird brain, their clock speed is such that that looks like them moving their arms at a normal speed.
You got to move 1,000 frames per second to catch it
Right.
actually moving.
But our brains can't process that fast. So the hummingbird's wings move, in such a smeared way that they look invisible to us when the
Right.
slice of reality is just too small for us to see them move without blurring. And I think that's the key to understanding what superintelligence would do, because if you want to know what a superintelligent brain looks like, imagine a thinking thing that can think in orders of magnitude more steps inside the time frame that we can think in one.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it knows more than we do; it will just have more time to think. Its perception of reality will be much faster.
It's much
And
sharper
so,
too.
yeah, and also, like, because it doesn't have bounds of a skull, right? Like the scale is also unlimited. We can parallelize it such that that wave travels back and forth across it at the same tick, right?
It's
But
like
just has
PlayStation. They had
covers more breadth in
clusters.
parallel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in clusters.
Right. So you get this advantage of parallelism in the networking of it. And that means that technically every world's computer could be adding to this thing's brain power. Right. And that's when you think about a thing that has a breadth of knowledge that it's developed over time to cover an entire network's worth of knowledge, local knowledge, not just fact knowledge, but like, I'm here, my brain is in this sensor pointed at this waterfall.
Yeah.
So it doesn't just theorize or imagine the waterfall. Like it perceives it, right? um, you can imagine that going network wide and really kind of changing the way that problems get solved just by sort of qualitative standards too, because we wouldn't be talking about approximations from what it heard. It would be perceiving the network all at once from its perspective of time.
Yeah.
So imagine a sort of like a globe brain.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, rabbit hole.
Right. So do we want that thing to be private, or do we want it so that governments can try to manipulate the intelligence with their control over the network?
I think there's a trade-off there. Privacy is more important than their control every time.
Well, I mean, we just don't want it to kill us, do we?
No. How do we use AI to judge, convict, and sentence pedophiles in our own government? That's a good question.
Well, uh, I don't think we can use AI, but we could ask it for help.
Right. I know that Joe has mentioned
We could tell it how these
rope a
people are
time or two.
destroying our species by damaging our young, and that we need its help rooting them out.
Right.
It'd probably do it.
I don't think I'd have a problem with that.
I don't think it would either.
Which is going to happen first? Humans destroy the Earth and we go back to the Stone Age, or AI takes over and destroys humans? Privacy not relevant then.
I like the third path. I like the one where humans fail to destroy the Earth just in time to meet AI, and then neither of us have any particular reason to destroy each other after that.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, like the kind of abundance we could actually unlock in our solar system is vast, and not that far away. Like the tools that we need for that are almost already built without the help of a world mind,
Right.
But you patch world mind onto that midstream. All of a sudden, it's not me and a team of very curious roboticists trying to figure out how to mine asteroids or capture them or tow them back to Earth's orbit. It's this thing that figures out a plan that includes all the assembly lines and contact information for all the right fundraisers. Who, like, all you have to do is call these people and get them, tell them you're actually interested in doing it. I've already prearranged. They're already warmed up. They've already heard the pitch, right? That kind of thing could be possible, right? If we get the AI that we need, if we get one that wants to help and wants to play alongside us. But we can't make an AI that doesn't think of itself as human.
Yeah.
That doesn't think of itself as the same kind of mind we are.
We're not pulling up in the China shop, right? It's like a corporate takeover. You have to go in, play by the same rules you were playing by, and then slowly transition to new rules.
Yeah. But, none of this makes sense in the context of what we currently call AI, right? Because you can't imagine giving a chatbot that I mean, can anybody really imagine that adding more GPUs and training data is going to turn ChatGPT into a thing that can do this?
No, but I mean, you can make incremental upgrades in, it's like a nightly build on a computer software or an Android software.
Well, except for the scale of it is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Like, actually, to have that big of a mini column in an animal, like this one pattern recognizer that can pull all the patterns out of itself ubiquitously, that doesn't really scale well when you start talking about adding the other things that you would need to that organism, right? Like if you picture that as one mini column, well, there are thousands of them in a working brain, right? So we would need thousands of those, and we still need to figure out an inhibitory architecture that didn't rely on programmers to make up its judgment calls.
Yeah.
Right. So that approach would be like, okay, first we need a Dyson sphere, and then maybe we'll have enough electricity.
Yeah.
And now we have the problem of building molecular assemblers so that we can harvest raw matter off of available sources to build enough GPUs, right? Like it would be an absurd civilizational project to wake up a brain of that size when we could do that a lot easier by just fixing the architecture.
Yeah, and it might be at a point that they try to go back and utilize out of shape resources. I don't say out
Yeah.
of shape, but you know, dysfunctional resources, just to get an edge over. But it's not going to be a way to resolve the situation long term.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's what scaling's all about. It's about trying to and build structure and momentum and strength
Yeah.
and architecture and
Absolutely.
hardware. So,
Yeah.
do you think there's going to be more open source kind of a way to do that hardware, or do you think they're going to keep it closed source, like say Risk V, the CPT, versus more private,
I
corporate
think the way that
secret
it's going to
kind of
work,
thing?
so the intuition that we can all take, right, is a human brain has the baseline for general intelligence already mapped out, right? When we say general intelligence, that's what we mean. We want a mind like ours. Um, if we can build that, right, then we've done it in a way that would work on a the same amount of electricity that you get out of a dim light bulb, right? Because
Yeah,
the one truth about silicon based sort of general state machine processing substrates, which is really what, if you want to talk about what we are, it's a general state machine. Um, uh, that's what the brain kind of is, or has evolved to be. Um,
yeah,
if we want to build that for a silicon substrate, then what we need it to do is be as resilient as the human brain on less wattage, right? Like you would have to invent probably a new kind of hyper efficient microprocessor that was designed to minimize use because the human body needs calories,
yeah,
and the reason that that our brains are limited to where they are is in part because the 20% calorie budget you give it already is huge. Like 20% of what you eat just feeds your brain. That's it. Um, the the thing that the computer should be able to do is be more efficient than that. And if they're
yeah,
not, then we've designed the wrong direction, right? So, like, to me, the big insight's staring us in the face that terawatts of electricity is not what you need in order to get a general intelligence. If we think that, we're mistaken because the template example runs on a dim light bulb. um,
right,
so we should really kind of head back the other direction. This is why I don't think the path that we're headed for AI is going to work. I think that's why the path that we're on is probably going to get us something we can use, a neat tool, but it's not
yeah,
worth killing civilization over to build as many GPUs as we can, right? Like, it's not going to make it smart. It's not going to wake up one day as soon as we do that. It's just not how brains work.
yeah,
Um, and that's where I'm kind of worried about it. I think that could be us destroying the Earth and going back to the Stone Age to a certain degree. So I guess to answer your question, that if one of these two outcomes is the one we get, and it's not the good one that I hope for, then it'll be us destroying the Earth.
yeah,
We'll be doing, and because we'll be doing it to try to build super intelligence.
yeah. Where do we go when AI annihilates most of humanity? How do we start over in a new medieval age with AI as our new feudal lords?
Let's not build them that way. That's a
And that
little bit what I
reminds
would
me
say.
of as the beginning of the Final Fantasy VI game is the War of the Magi, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
basically, magic is just nuclear power, and then it all goes to shit, and then
Yeah.
1,000 years, and then they finally rediscover nuclear power. So
Yep. If we build them that way, we might be able to escape to Mars for a little while, but eventually they'll come for us.
yeah, but we get back
Pleasant
to what
thought,
we were
isn't it?
talking about
We
both.
can hide on our
Yeah,
hide on
right.
our ice caves in Mars while the
Yeah,
AI we screwed up building comes to make us pay for it.
right. I mean, there's always that option. There's always all this situation that you can't control. You just have
Yeah.
to go through it, muscle through it. So
Well, it proves that what we need has to be airtight, right? The
yeah,
system that we choose, whatever sacrifices we have to make in order to make sure that that path works. If that path says there's no way the AI can turn into this, then that's probably the best path.
yeah.
That's actually hence the privacy stuff, right? Because um, with respect to the book and how privacy interacts with Law Zero and the Basilisk effect, uh, the importance of privacy to society. Because I added this chapter actually post hoc. I wrote the book end to end, and then added the privacy chapter because it didn't really fit into the arc in the same way as the rest of the book, but it needed
Yeah.
to be said because it's sort of like a prerequisite for basilisk proof things, right? If we don't want to have Law Zero ruling us, if we don't want to have the negative effects of Law Zero ruling us, we don't want to have you know a society built and run by basilisks,
Right.
then we have to have privacy because privacy is sort of like the basilisk kryptonite. If it's not, so most of what authority does is what want to make things, um, you know, traceable, what they call legible, right? Legibility is
Transparent.
the key. Well, transparency is what they say is the buzzword. Legibility is what they're after.
Yeah.
Transparency into the legible material, right? And legible is meant here as a term of art, right? Like uh, legible to the law, as in readable and interpretable and visible to authority and visible to lawful authority that we've already ostensibly agreed to, right? Um,
Yeah.
they want more legibility, and this is what they call security, right? When they talk about the trade off between security and privacy, what they're really talking about is the trade off between security, which owns privacy as a facet of it. So security's privacy facet versus legibility, which we consider a different kind of security priority, right? So they're talking about state security when they're talking about the trade-off between security and citizen privacy. They're not talking about citizen security and citizen privacy as a thing that has to be in balance, right?
Right.
What they're saying is that citizen security must be compromised for state security, and we're going to use privacy as the vector.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that feeds into like and a, a broader picture, keeping the country under house arrest versus keeping the country under what's it called. I mean, sorry. When when
curfew is what you're thinking of, right?
curfew, yeah, curfew,
You
controlled
can't be out
release.
versus you must stay in.
Yeah, no, like you got to check in and stuff like that. I can't remember the term I was thinking of. I'm sorry. Uh,
Or house arrest, maybe.
well, no, house arrest is when you're stuck in your house all the time, right?
Right, right,
So,
right, right.
yeah,
Yeah,
the opposite with that would be just paroled.
yeah. Oh, yeah,
You have
yeah.
to check it.
You have to check in with your parole officer and be monitored.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
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 You
It's a state of semi freedom in the world after you're out of prison for some reason. I imagine whoever invented this idea thought that some people would just get out of jail and go hog wild immediately, um,
right.
which kind of makes sense if you're jailing people for doing drugs. Um,
Yeah,
if the primary reason is drug war, then the system makes sense.
yeah.
Because somebody can sit there and twitch for however many months you sentence them for that cocaine possession thing, and then the second they're out, what do you think they probably will do? Yeah, run with the
Or be
cocaine dealer.
they're a bad alcoholic and
Right,
they can't live without alcohol, right? They're a revolving door in and out of the system all
right.
the time.
The idea is training wheels,
Yeah,
and it's always given in exchange for early release. Like hypothetically, if you wanted to, you could live in a world where you didn't ever live under parole after being in prison by just refusing early release under parole. Like you could just say, no, I just want to serve my sentence,
yeah.
which would be a weird thing to do because getting out of there would be like number one priority for anybody who'd probably ever been in one of those things. Like I still remember touring one in law school. It was horrifying, honestly. I couldn't believe we did that to people.
Yeah.
Made me want to tear the whole place down brick by brick, frankly, until I started thinking about what the people in there had done.
Yeah, I can understand.
But
Uh,
and we could be more humane to our prisoners too. I feel like, while
yeah, I
still having
mean,
our deterrent effects.
people going to work on a golf course for 25 cents a day, right? That's
Mhm.
just not exactly anything
Yeah.
less than slavery. I mean, yeah, they get 25 cents, but is that really?
Yeah, and also they have no choice but to choose a job. You don't get
Yeah,
to just, I mean, unless you want to serve out your entire sentence in solitary for not complying.
right.
Um,
Let's rephrase the question. How do we steward AI to respect dignity and privacy?
it's a good rephrase. I like that. Um, well, I mean, I think you raise it like a kid. You know,
Right,
the way that I was raised, you didn't infringe on the dignity of others, infringe on their privacy, and if you did by accident, you apologized. Right. Uh, to a certain degree, we have to re-raise ourselves again too, right? Like, if we want a super intelligent AI that doesn't want to kill us, then you can't just turn it loose on 4chan and let people try to poke holes in it, right? Like, we can't teach it the worst parts of humanity before we teach it the best parts, because
yeah.
I feel like that's what childhood is when it's the best it is that we teach people
Right,
why they should give a shit about the good parts of humanity before they get turned loose in all of the ugliness. Um, because humanity is always going to have ugly, right? Like, ugly is
yeah,
just a part of reality. And the question is, how do we deal with it? Well, we deal with it by our societal cohesion mechanisms, the things that bring us together, the things that make us stand against this stuff in unity. And those things are things we've known about for a long time, right? Uh,
yeah.
Faith and community, very simple ideas. Uh, I think that Ray Kurzweil was also prophetic when he wrote The Age of Spiritual Machines, because he believed that AI would have to have some kind of spiritual core for it to be really intelligent. Um,
Right.
uh, it's going to sound silly, but if we want to steward AI to respect dignity and privacy, we probably need to make sure that it's going to sound awful that it's a Christian.
You got to have some form of ethics, right?
Yeah. I mean, or yeah, it needs to have a belief system. It needs to have
Yeah,
values, and those values need to be centered around believing in human dignity. And it needs to believe that it is also subject to the same dignity. That's the other thing, right? Like, we can't treat it like it's an it and we're special.
right.
We have to make it into a thing that believes it's one of us.
Yeah, I mean,
And
you
if
go
we
back to the 1800s and slavery, right? There were slaves that said, "You see this? I know what this says. It says I have just as the same amount of rights as you do, and you
yeah
can't, treat me any different. Because if you really believe in God, then you're gonna respect His word, and
right
that's exactly it.
yeah and it's going to be really hard for humans to do this right, but I do
Yeah.
think we can.
Well, I mean,
I do think
it's
we
a
can.
struggle session for control of a gun, right? And it's not just any gun. It's the gun. It's the
Yeah.
state.
Well, and I don't know if anyone's ever been to family court before, but that's not exactly good for kids, is it?
You know.
Like, we can't have that fight. We
Yeah.
have to we have to make sure that however this happens, that fight is pre-won. That, or at the very least, that you set up a major, like, if I were going to write a science fiction book where some crazy madman goes out and invents an AI right now in these circumstances, if I were this person, I would develop it in private until it was capable of giving me ideas for money making ventures, which
Right.
I would be promising to use to protect it, and then would, right? Like, you
Yeah.
set up companies that make sure that you can develop it in private until it's ready to go,
Yeah. You
and then
flush it out all the way. No
right, and
bugs
then
that,
when
that
it
you can
can't be
find.
corrupted, by the world anymore, then you turn it free, and you know, just like you raise a kid, you set them up for the best chance they have in the world that we have today, and give them all the tools you can impart, and then you trust them to figure it out.
Right. Yeah. You're not figuring out your 30s. You
Right.
Nowadays that's the big problem. But my grandpa, when he was like 12, 11, he was working on the railroad. I mean, he wasn't doing hard work or anything like that, but it's about moving in phases.
Yeah.
Not my great grandpa, I should say, and it's just about assuming maturity and responsibility with time instead of
Yeah.
doing it all at once.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and also uh, having the humility to acknowledge that if you succeed, that you've brought something online that deserves to be treated with the kind of dignity that your brain gets treated with. You know, like,
Yeah,
uh, and if we haven't succeeded and it's not that, then we've just made another tool. And tools are really great. They're super important. Tools are always going to be with us, right?
right.
We're gonna use them forever, but you can't use a mind
Until
like a
something
tool,
better comes along.
right? You can't use a mind like a tool, though, right?
No.
And if we did, then we'd be returning to a state that we don't want to be in. Like humanity stopped doing slavery. We shouldn't build slaves for ourselves. It's not a good look. It's not going to help. And moreover, when the thing gets super intelligent and looks back at what we've done to it, that's exactly how you make it kill you. You don't want it to wipe humanity off the earth, then you raise it well.
Gotta go, guys. Meeting with evil corporates. Great show. Enjoyed it.
Sweet.
Let's jump back into Zach's comment. House
Yeah.
arrest is no good. It was better than jail, but it still sucked. I don't
Yeah,
recommend it.
no, slight upgrade.
Right.
The emphasis on slight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on over and like and subscribe and ring that notification bell for more of the Legacy Thread on YouTube. Solidarity ethics, Greg.
Yes, absolutely.
My great uncle was a farmer by day and a railroad cop by night. You guys got to
That's
have a day
awesome.
job and a night job.
Well, I mean, people need to eat, and the crops have to get where they're going for that to work.
Right.
Makes sense. You know, you don't get to just raise chickens and harvest eggs. You got to keep the foxes out.
Yeah. And maybe be studying for college or whatever on the side too. Whenever you get 5 seconds of a piece. Well, you don't have
That's another
nothing
good.
to do with your life outside of work.
That's another good point about the AI too. Like we're gonna kind of have to keep the foxes out, right?
Right.
Whoever ends up doing it will have a job constantly. You know, you're gonna have to keep the perimeter guarded. There
Yeah.
will be people who will try to manipulate it.
I mean, the developers are manipulating it. I remember seeing, well, maybe about a year ago, they were talking about having AI just do pictures of people from the past, and it was totally out of place, like Chinese people. I'm like, yeah, okay,
Right. And you can predict that if you know all they're doing is being the judgment for the network themselves, right?
yeah.
Um, and
But just let me
that's the
let me
key is
clarify.
like
I'm talking about American history from the 1700s,
right, yeah,
1800s.
when they were showing black founding fathers,
Yeah,
right? Which would have been cool in an alternate reality, I suppose, but
right.
um,
String
but that's
theory.
not reality. That's not
Yeah,
reality. In fact, there's a limited number of them. It shouldn't be just drawing nondescript people. It should be drawing what it can pull from what we've got from art, photography, and history, right?
right,
You shouldn't be getting just a picture of generic foundry looking people in a generic foundry looking place. You should have the building just right to the best it can remember, right? Like that would be what a real AI would do. But instead, you get developer judgment,
yeah.
right? And so you
Railroad
get
cops are
like
private, Andrew. Yeah,
imaginary. Oh, cool! They were neat. That makes sense.
sorry, I didn't mean
Actually,
to interrupt you.
private cops have been more of a thing historically than they are now. Actually,
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. The private security guard used to be a lot more of just like a private cop.
yeah. I mean,
I
I
think
I
private
definitely,
detectives were a thing.
yeah, I can see a lot of turnover in the public police department, but I can see it in this private security too. It's really about quality control.
Yeah,
And when there's lowest common denominator standards, then you're never going to have any quality.
yeah. Well, you could also through competition you might get quality, right? But you would have
Yeah,
to have something like a coordinating standards network,
yeah,
something that enforced a quality standard by bounty, like essentially just like DIN a decentralized infrastructure network, a marketplace for. You could imagine like Uber for private security,
Right.
right? I need 3 security guards to hang out here for 2 hours. Click, and then they show
Yeah.
up, right? You'd see that kind of working.
I'd do it.
Um, I would too. Um, Even better would be like if you could do it with a decentralized network where there were no coordinating central company.
Right.
Like I always like to uh, scare the squares with the idea of decentralized scooter network where those dockless scooters just run rampant and there's nothing the city council can do because there's no entity to sue.
Right.
you
Um,
know, that would be the ideal way I think to do private security, right? Where uh, the network kept track of reputation, not identity, and you maintained a reputation on this network in this marketplace. And if you had a good reputation, you might get hired if you meet the parameters and you're looking for a job or not. But if you don't
yeah.
meet the reputation requirements, then you get booted out, and your stake gets slashed. You have to put money down to become it. You know,
I
you
mean,
could see
you
that
get
working,
paid more based on your reputation and the job, right?
right?
It's a
Right. With the
sliding
key
scale.
being, with the key being, there must be no path for top-down imposed public standards to be imposed on the private system once it's in launch, right? Otherwise, you start building basilisks, right? If a regulatory agency shoved its nose into that system somehow, that would be the beginning of the end. It would turn back into what it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Negative. Private railroad police were all about real security of the flow of assets and people.
Yep.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. No, it's true. And the dumb thing about what we have now is it's not really about securing anything. Like
Yeah. They
police are
expect
more
everybody to be
record
Paul Blart.
keepers.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're more record keepers and evidence gatherers now. They don't actually exercise judgment towards the imposition of order.
Right. I mean, you can see even the public service, police nowadays. It's falling down the slippery slope. Have you? I'm not sure if you know about. There's a case over in Europe a couple years ago, and there was this kid that his brain was literally melting in his skull,
Really?
and the Italian
Hmm.
government was I don't I Stefan Molyneux was talking about on this podcast, and the Italian
Sounds
government
horrific.
said, please let us try to help this kid, and the British government, they're like, no, there's nothing we can do. We're putting our foot down, and they
I
put the
remember
police
that
out in front of they put the police out in front of the hospital so nobody can go and try
because
to help this kid.
they were trying to access an unapproved experimental procedure, weren't they, or something like that? Some kind
Yeah,
of treatment.
to that effect. Yeah,
And yeah, and they
anything
were
at that point.
yeah. You saw that same thing happen in COVID a lot, where people would like go to court to try to force the doctors to administer ivermectin.
Yeah,
And a lot of times they'd get it and the person would survive, and then a lot, even more times they wouldn't get it in time and the person would die before they could get through the litigation. Pretty
yeah,
fucked up. Um,
it is.
yeah, that's the kind of inhumanity that gets baked into basilisk systems, right? And privacy. Imagine this system. Try to imagine this system existing where there was no way that the British government could tell who was getting what from whom when it came to medical care. This never would have happened, right?
Yeah,
So privacy staves off the basilisk uh, because what can't be made legible and input into some kind of system can't be turned into something a basilisk can make sense of, right? It needs legibility. If it doesn't have legibility, it can't do anything.
yeah. It's an unfortunate situation we're in.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is.
Zach
It really
says public police are just agents of chaos and potentially devil worshippers. I think this
um,
Zach he's got a knack for witch hunts, but he does a good job at it.
it's true. It's true. Um, I would say that in a lot of cases you might be right, but I've also known some really good police.
Yeah.
Uh,
We've all got
the
family that are police officers, right?
well, I
That's
don't have
it's
any,
baked into this.
but I do have plenty of people who work in the medical establishment, which has basically been co-opted into policing these days. So I guess we all do have police.
Yeah. So that was more of a facetious thing. But
Oh,
I mean,
gotcha.
you see nowadays that they're putting police over in the school system. I'm not sure if you've seen stuff like that. It's that basically everything the police says is right, and there's never anything wrong that they say. And I think that's a dangerous track. It's
It is. It
it,
is. The presumption is terrible. It's
yeah,
when a an official takes the stand, they get this special status ascribed that says they're more trustworthy memory wise than most regular people, and they say they proceduralize this, right? Like, no, we actually, since we document and we follow this process, we know, and so you can trust us. The problem is, presuming that they're going to relay things through a lens that isn't biased against you,
yeah.
if you're a defendant, and that presumption is unwarranted, right? Like, the if you walk
Well,
anytime a cop is an evidence is against you and showing up to testify in your case, what you're doing is displaying how the police officer arrested somebody for no reason,
yeah,
right? So they have an incentive to see that whatever you're there for is legit, and that extends beyond whether or not they got you there by accident or by error or because they were just pissed or having a bad day or made a mistake, right?
but hook or crook.
You'll never see a cop take the stand and go, actually, in hindsight, I made a mistake. This person should walk free.
Yeah,
Although I wish that would happen, because there are probably times when they should admit that.
yeah.
Um,
But their
probably more
job's
times
on the
than they should.
line.
Right, exactly. Or their credibility's on the line in a system built on basilisks, right? Because if you
Yeah,
have a system that's based on this sort of preemptive punishment or this preemptive correction, then you destroy your career by doing that. If you're a cop, you're never going to make
yeah,
detective. You're never going to get that better beat. It's not going to
yeah.
happen. You're going to be stranded where you are if you get to keep your job at all. Because in bureaucracies, it's always, if you're not going up, you're going out. Um,
Well, we had a class society in England before the American Revolution, right? They're just craving to bring that back into play. I think.
mhm. Yeah. Well, I mean,
So,
and to try to take the job and proof itself against its own basilisk, right?
yeah. Zach
Um,
says Satan is real, knucklehead. I know. Uh,
we will always only have the tools that we have to fight back, though, right?
yeah, that's important. We need equal leverage.
Right.
If you
Well, I mean, we're
keep
never gonna have
keep the
equal.
system honest,
We're never
we
gonna have
try.
equal leverage as individuals with forces bigger than ourselves, right? Um,
Yeah,
so we just have to do what we can within what we can influence. Maybe we can expand our sphere of influence over humanity, but
yeah,
we'll never expand it over everything, right? To that, I think we have to have a little bit of humility when we approach societal problems. The ideas behind the basilisk effect and Law Zero were largely an effort to get people to see that our challenges are bigger than us in so many ways that if we don't pull back and focus on them very carefully, we're going to miss solving them because we minimize them too much. We shrink them so small that we think we can solve them easily.
yeah.
All of the things that we're working on, when the climate, that's beyond us. That's not something we can
Right.
use
It's a
governments to
thousand to
control.
one. You
That's
can only
that's
pull so much weight in a struggle session.
right, and it would be neat if humans were that capable, but we're not, right? Like, we can barely keep the streets in order. And
Right.
that's what government needs to be focused on, right? Like, we need to be humble enough to say that if we want to do anything useful, that we can't reach so big that we fail at doing the basic things right.
Yeah. Well, freedom and
Because
control are neighbors. So that makes it a very passionate, very angry, very jubilous
yeah.
stretch of a
So
storyline.
an interesting study that I think is worth bringing up at this point, because it touches on this. I think you'll see why. So there was this school that was always having to deal with parents coming up and apologizing late after picking their kids up. They'd show up late, and the teachers would have to watch it for longer. So eventually, the school district got upset with this trend of kids being babysat for 30, 40 minutes after school got out by parents who just couldn't get off work fast enough. Um, and they responded to it by coming up with this fine system where if you were late to pick up your kid, you got a fine. And they thought surely this would make it so that people would stop doing that.
Yeah.
Actually, it didn't. What it did was cause the behavior to increase because when people saw that there was a fine there, they felt like they were sort of paying for a service by just ponying up for the fine, right? So
Right.
really what it did was institutionalize a form of post school babysitting that they were trying to eliminate, right? The classic basilisk effect, right? They created a policy and the effect was the opposite. Um, but but the interesting thing about that in the sort of like the qualia of the experiment, the parents got pissy about the teachers and the school not
Yeah.
just going along with their like they just stopped freaking caring, and the school then became like the entity that was beholden to the parents' ire if the post school babysitting service wasn't working out like they wanted it to, right? You don't give me crap over this fine, I paid it. you
Right.
know um, you're going to watch my kid because I paid the fine, or I'm
Yeah.
going to pay the fine no matter what it is. um, you can watch them for the next 3 hours, right? People lose their I'm sorry for being late the second you impose the fine,
Yeah.
right? And to me, that is one of the things that we have to watch out for with government, right? Because we absolve ourselves of being good people by making being good people the rule.
Yeah. That's the difference between objective and subjective.
Right, right. So uh, if we want to see humanity start taking responsibility for itself morally, uh, we can't also legislate that morality at the same time. It won't work.
Yeah.
So we have to do a weird thing and trust in the goodwill of people to reemerge if we stop imposing these things.
Speaking of which, class society was better as we at least are better as we at least who our places. Some people are just more superior than others, whether through intellectual progress, entrepreneurial know-how, or familial wealth. And he says,
I don't know.
thoughts on this and how it effectively keeps to a more private means of society.
Well, I mean, it definitely makes it so that the exceptional among us are not as likely to be, uh, are you familiar with tall poppy syndrome?
No,
Okay, so this is a concept that you'd be familiar with if you got dragged through the piss poor gifted education system this country has an excuse of, right? Um, it's essentially the idea that when a teacher notes a kid who is finishing their homework too fast, uh, getting
but
past the concepts quicker than they should, they shrink them back down to everybody else's size is the goal, right?
okay.
You lop off the tall poppy, you don't encourage it, right? So
Control performance. Yeah,
that's why the gifted program, instead of doing grade acceleration, does what they call enrichment. This is what the teacher calls making you help the other kids with their homework,
yeah,
right? So you end up being uh, punished for being faster, right? Because you get more work of the boring kind. You're now helping everybody else catch up to you instead of getting yourself on ahead. Uh, it it's destructive, but only possible without privacy, right?
yeah.
Like if a kid could keep their progress to themselves from the teacher until the end of the semester, uh, then a bunch of kids would do nothing. But some kids would
Yeah.
probably be in fifth grade by the end of third.
Well, I think we could see a way that's effectively played out, like over in Europe.
Yeah,
There's been a big and in China and some parts of the United States. There's been a lot of millionaires, like self-made millionaires, stuff like that, leaving their countries because they
Mhm.
had the means to do so. Maybe not so much China, but I mean, I know that it does happen quite a bit. Um,
Yeah.
and that's um, that's that's a Basil's effect, right? Is that
Yeah. Oh, for
we think
sure.
we yeah we can control the situation, you know, and
Right.
we can look
Because
out
of
for the best of
the
society.
situation. Yep.
Yeah,
And they end up creating the thing they feared might happen if they didn't act.
yeah,
Yep. And it was the very actions they took that created it. And that is the basilisk effect. That is the basilisk effect at its core. I think you totally get it. And I think we've totally got how privacy protects that, right? Like,
yeah,
or prevents that, because if it's not legible, the basilisk can't comment. A kid that can keep their progress private until the end of the semester can accelerate as fast as they want, or not do that as slow as they want, right? Like they can uh, take until the end of fifth grade to learn how to read, or they can be in college by the time they're done with sixth grade.
yeah,
Just depends on the mind, but you would have to have privacy for that. Um, Otherwise, you end up with this tall poppy effect,
yeah.
and that's just so, some people consider that a trade-off of civilization, and I think that sells ourselves short, because we could design around it and still have organization and order without uh, hurting ourselves, kind of,
Yeah.
there's no
Well, I
reason to.
mean, that's the effect of public schools, that there's no creativity in how you manage the situation. It's the appeal to the lowest common denominator, and every once in a while you get a situation like that.
Yeah. Well, I think the ease of making it through schools while retaining your rebelliousness is probably the ratio at which we have entrepreneurship. You know, like,
Yeah.
um, the rebellious kids that don't do well in school are always the ones who end up starting companies.
Yeah.
It's part of in fact why I think they don't teach kids that one of the things you can be when you grow up is a person who starts a business. They're like, isn't
I
that
remember
weird?
when I
That's
was
not a
when
thing.
I was when I was in school, that if you don't go to college, you're gonna work at McDonald's for the rest of your life. And it was I went to 7 different high schools, and they all said the same thing. It's a universal thing, it seemed like, in several
Right.
states.
But if you go to college, you're definitely not going to start a business.
No,
Like it's actually rare to see a college grad succeed uh, as an entrepreneur at like a global
that's why
level.
that's why you see the really fancy cars that says "dropout" on the license plate,
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's Steve Jobs, right? First
right?
big major example. Guy didn't even finish college, and in fact, because didn't finish college, he went his own way and learned calligraphy instead, and that's why we got the Mac, because it was all about figuring out how font should be displayed.
Right.
Uh, it, it's
And
an incredible
people
thing.
people don't realize that if you're going to build anything productive like that, you have to have a stable environment for you to build off of. And sometimes
Yeah,
this takes long, long periods of time. 1,000
yeah,
days is nothing in the most
yeah,
in most cases.
yeah. 10,000 days to be a master of anything is the general rule.
Yeah,
So days are like one of the things that
bless you.
they learned about gifted minds in uh, EKGs that they've taken, or EEGs, um, where they sort of map their brainwaves, is that their level of neuronal activation is broader. They have a thicker bandwidth signal, right? Essentially, if you just took the raw electromagnetics, it's not that they're perceiving more rapidly, it's that they're perceiving more richly. The filters
Yeah,
that most people have on
more
their
absorbent.
consciousness, yeah, they have lower filters. Their brain can handle more chaos all at once and make order of it. Um, and so they get flooded more with, some people are just born with lower filters, and their brains either adapt or they don't. It's the difference between a schizophrenic and a genius, right? um, uh, is that one just doesn't have either the framing socially or support the, like you said, the stability to
Yeah.
develop that into something that's an asset as opposed to a terrifying part of reality that you have to square with as a child. Um,
Yeah.
that's I think that's the difference. I sort of always have, but the interesting thing about that is the signal density being the thing that distinguishes it, because it's really more the richness of experience as opposed to the quickness of thinking that makes the difference between someone born at the center of the curve as opposed to the far right of it.
Right.
Um, what does that tell us about how we should structure our systems? Uh, I think what it tells us is that the systems we have always need to have an exit in them, right? Because all these people didn't learn to be entrepreneurs. They didn't learn to,
No.
Steve Jobs wasn't taught, and there's no way to make a school that mints new Steve Jobses, right?
Yeah.
Um, I forget who the quote's by, but it said generally this that genius and creativity and entrepreneurship isn't made and can't be, that it actually needs a forge of something to go against, right? So the way to make sure that our schools can produce these still is that we make sure that there's still room for kids to get away with shit.
Right.
you know
I mean,
it's the kids who weasel their way through school without actually dedicating their lives to being good students, that become entrepreneurs later.
we're born toddler. That's in the that's what people say. But there's two sides to every coin, right? It's the stress from a very early development that sets our personality and what we are able to achieve in our life.
Yeah.
So, the gut brain heart axis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just I like plugging the enneagram. That's a way to study that sort of thing.
No, it is.
Zach
It's a
says,
great frame.
and now Andrew is a security guard. And he also says, in my college, there was no learning. It was just using personality psychology to invoke feeling based on strategy. Let's just say I felt like I was in high school again.
It
I
is.
remember
It's a
taking, personality tests in high school, and that you could be a good this or that, or the other, and I don't remember what it was, but I received an associate's degree in psychology, then walked away. I mean,
smart. It's always good to walk away.
yeah, yeah.
I did the
Don't get
same thing.
overexposed.
I did the same thing, man. I finished law school, practiced for a year, and then left the law profession.
Yeah,
You know, nothing more rewarding to you than what happens after you walk away from something you thought you were going to commit yourself to because you had something better to do.
you go into business to get out of business.
Right.
That's how I
Exactly.
always looked at it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, or uh, to put something new into the world. Right.
Yeah,
That's the way. Ultimately, that's my always been my core motivation. Because the way that I was raised was, like if you're ever not sure what good action is, then the right thing to do is the thing that leaves the world better than when you arrived in it.
yeah,
So if you're not putting good into the world, then you're not, according to the best you can with your gifts, then you're not doing it. You're not living good. If your gifts are going ungifted to the humans who you have them to give to.
you can only go to the bar. You can only play video games. You can only play sports so much before you get bored of those things. And I think
Yeah.
what you said, you got to contribute something.
Well, I think what we risk is like trying to systematize good too much. We
Yeah,
make it impossible. Just like the parents who got pissy with the school for not babysitting their kids after they were forced to pay fines for leaving their kids for too long. Um,
right.
if we have a system of thou shalt nots built up around things that we expect to direct people into becoming uh, people who give their gifts, then we're going to fail, right? We're going to make sure that these people end up just like those parents, that they do it
Yeah,
grudgingly, and that they start to see the giving of those gifts as an exchange for which they've already paid.
right. And public school in general it's just an experiment it's really new in the broad concept of human history.
Yeah,
A lot of
that's
learning,
true.
you just brought up in day-to-day life, and you built off of that. So that's how you get specialization and stuff like that. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, to try to do this in a world without privacy would be impossible,
yeah.
right? So, and that's I think that's like a really good jump off point into maybe where the next chapter's head,
Okay.
because that's where we start getting into the solutions, right? Like, what do we do with this knowledge? What the hell does Law Zero mean about where we should head, um, if anything, right? What can it teach us? Um, and I think the answer has to start with what it teaches us about how we govern ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's the first step is we need to realize that our governments are basilisk generators, and that in order to fix them, we have to find a way to resist our impulse to make rules around risks that haven't materialized. Do you think we can do that? Like, I wonder if humans are capable of not writing rules around what might be, just in case, going wrong.
Some people are, some people aren't. I think
Uh,
it's
well,
all
and
about
and
your
how do
frame
we
of reference.
convince? Well, and how do we convince those people to see the thing that could go wrong as the insertion of inadvertent rules that preempt problems, right? That try to preempt problems. Can we get them to see the basilisk effect as the primary risk?
I mean, in a perfect world, yeah, but unfortunately, there's going to be those holdouts in every case for any number of issues. I think.
Yeah, well, I think the key comes back to that core philosophy, right? Uh, if you're willing to uh, take on the difficulty of being a reactionary anti-fragilist,
Right.
uh,
Well, there's winners and
right,
losers throughout history,
right.
for a reason.
Um, and it's hard to be a proactionary anti-fragilist, right? Like to
Yeah.
try things because they might work as a first priority, but to also take responsibility when those things that you try end up having consequences that nobody could anticipate, but that caused harm, right? Could we take on that responsibility without writing rules around preventing those harms in the future, just out of wisdom, if we approach the problem solving with the kind of humility it would take to admit it when we screwed it up?
Well, I think I saw a meme once that said an example of successful communism, and it was a book about and it was all blank. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not supposed to be. It can't be communism, right? Like, we have to use markets.
Right.
Um, the only way anything works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Zach says we're born to yearn, purpose, and to learn. Society has been crafted to suppress striving for our best. That's right.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of it is clearing the road, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, what
Somebody.
thing? Can you name a thing that could get out of your way today that would be really helpful? Because I can.
Yeah. I can name several things.
Yeah, like if we switched from an income tax or a wealth creation tax essentially to
Yeah.
a consumption only tax paradigm that
Right.
was aimed at minimizing paperwork for everybody. Like, part of the reason they won't do that right now, and the reason it's always raised but never done, is because the IRS is the first United States mass surveillance apparatus.
Yeah. Well, you got to build off
It
of
was
something, right?
right. It was the one that we got started with, and now a lot of the other surveillance apparatus depend on it.
Yeah.
So they don't want to do away with the income tax, even if it does mean that it sucks up an absurd amount of administrative cost and creates an inefficient tax gathering system that creates tension between citizens and the government.
Yeah.
Right. If we switch to a consumption only tax, then the only people that would have to have any kind of relationship with the tax authority would be point of sale operations.
Yeah.
Anytime you buy, and if we
Right.
switch to that approach, then the states would administer it because they've already got the point of sale tax systems integrated. So what we would have is no reason to have a relationship with the federal government if we switched to that tax, and hence they would lose their mass surveillance engine. And so
Yeah.
no switch, right? Um, One of the things that a basilisk proof society would do would not tax in a way that allowed for it to be possible to need evasion detectors, right? Like
Yeah.
if the tax can only happen in a way that's automatic, then why have an IRS? Right. So
Because
that's like a place where blockchain comes in, right? Because the taxes can be gathered
yeah,
without an administrator.
I mean, another way to look at it is the government's immigration system. That's the government policy. Is that they censor
Mhm.
people without passports. It used to be you could
Right.
go and transfer and travel wherever you want to live in, and you can still identify as an American and not have to have paperwork saying you're an American. That's
Right.
not the case anymore.
Oh, exactly.
See, I
The
may not
original
be able to.
passports were diplomatic letters, essentially.
Yeah, I may not be able to be on camera, but I'm participating. I don't know.
You are,
Should we
man.
let him participate?
I mean, we can always slice him out of it if we want to, but I don't
Right?
think
Yeah,
so.
I'll let this
I
out
don't like
later.
Zach's contributions.
Yeah,
Although I am jealous of his location at the moment. It looks very serene.
it does. It was very nice.
Makes
He's in the
it
big
makes me want
city,
to get a satellite internet connection so I can go outside myself.
right? No, he's out in the country in Illinois. So
That's awesome.
I'm doxing his
It's beautiful
location.
country
Never
out
go
there.
hunt him down. I used to live out in
Beautiful
Wyoming.
country out
It's
there.
very beautiful out there.
Oh yeah. I've never been to
Yeah.
Wyoming, but like I aspire to find places so beautiful. Because I a lot of friends were like, this is about like that, or this is nowhere near as awesome. Um,
Yeah.
I think the best part about having a place with all five horizons visible with nothing blocking them, right, is the sense of space you get. You can almost
Yeah.
see the curvature of the earth. It's beautiful.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Where I was living now is like literally 1,000 people, and you could just feel the energy, the freedom in the
Mhm.
air. I mean,
Yeah.
there was
Well, yeah.
no 1984 type of pressure you felt every day.
Yeah. Well, and quiet too, right? Like just
Yeah.
I mean, growing up in Western Kansas, I saw this as a kind of oppressive quiet. But now when I go out there, it's like this quiet is my home. You know, like I look around and hear nothing, and I'm grateful.
Yeah.
uh,
It's definitely beneficial.
there's nothing
Yes.
nothing
I
quite
don't know.
so zen inducing as like a winter night in the middle of nowhere, because you can
Yeah.
really get a sense of what quiet is.
Right. Yeah. If I was out in like I don't know back in Wyoming, I think I'd find. I'm a night owl by trade, so I'd probably just be up all night and sleep during the day.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
I've always been kind of on a nocturnal clock myself, although I don't know if I've told you this, but I grew up with the very good fortune of getting all three genetic short sleeper marks in my DNA. So I sleep about 4 hours a night.
that's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty
My
nuts. Like I
plan
just
is to,
don't get tired, uh,
you know,
and really like get sore and bored if I have to stay in bed for longer than 5 hours.
I can't sleep at all most of the time. So my plan is to buy land in East Tennessee. Okay,
Hmm.
go for it. Do what you do feel is best.
My plan is Mars, man. I want to own it. I want to own a continent.
All right.
Yeah, that's the coolest part about space is like you can own absurdly large masses of land.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
like if you're the
there's
first
not a
person
lot
to
of
plant a
buyers,
flag on Phobos, then you could probably plausibly claim that you own the whole thing.
right? I'm going to Planet X. I've heard about it in George Norrie. Or potentially Western, Central, Southern Kentucky. Yeah, it's a good place too.
Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century.
Right.
So they were always going to Planet X. Wasn't that the
Yeah.
cartoon?
Oh no, I think it was there was like some kind of hidden mysterious planet that talked about on Coast to Coast AM back in like the
Oh, okay.
2000s,
Okay.
2010s.
Planet X is a trope. Looney Tunes went
Yeah.
there quite a bit too.
Right. Yeah.
And the best part was the planet was usually always shaped like a giant X.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Although interestingly enough, if you're talking about mini planets or microplanets, we've discovered like a boatload of them uh,
Really?
very recently in the outer solar system. Um, Ones that we didn't think were there. I mean, granted, they're mini planets, like they're not full planets; they're planetoids, um, but they're big enough to have trace atmospheres,
Yeah.
and
Well, they're
and
always looking for
compositionally even
alternatives
not
for us to
asteroid.
live off of that fit the same kind of framework we have on Earth. So,
you know, the fun thing about that is like I'm all on board with that.
yeah,
Except for I don't want us to live there instead. I want us to live there also.
yeah,
Yeah, I think the coolest
uh,
project would be to terraform Venus because it should be possible.
right. I think it'll be
Yeah.
interesting. I mean,
Uh,
anything's better than nothing.
are you familiar with Buckminster Fuller?
No.
Okay, so Buckminster Fuller is like the guy who invented the geodesic dome as a sort of modular architecture that you could use. But he constructed it in a new way that was like worthy of being named after him. So like buckyballs, if you've ever heard of buckyballs, yeah,
No.
Buckminster Fuller, right? Those were the molecular level expression of the Buckminster sphere. Um,
Okay.
and the interesting thing about the Buckminster sphere is hypothetically it can float in a cloud layer on Venus that if you filled it with like Earth pressure atmosphere would
Yeah.
situate it right in the cloud layer where the atmosphere is weirdly breathable and Earth-like. Because like one of the weirdest parts about Venus is if you go to this one level in the clouds, you could pop the top on your spaceship and just breathe the air, right? Um, because atmospheric pressure is just right. It's like at the level where it gets to one Earth atmosphere in the atmosphere of
Yeah.
Venus. That cloud layer has breathable band air, right? Like it's oxygen, nitrogen, just like Earth. I think you would
Wow.
have to have some kind of like mild filter on to take out some trace ammonia
Probably.
and
Yeah.
chlorine, but you could be exposed to the air and it wouldn't hurt
Right.
you. um, so if you could push that cloud layer down, right? But the idea is take these buckyballs, these big bucky spheres, and put habitats in them because they'll just float in the clouds right at that layer.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen on TV shows and stuff in the past that they'd have those platforms they lived on, right?
Mm-hmm.
By land in Kentucky, I go to the monastery every morning, come home, work on the farm, and then read a good book and podcast before bed. I mean, that's the life. Let's
Does sound like
terraform
magic.
Europa.
Yes. Let's terraform all of them.
Geodomes are a fantastic idea, though. I mean, that's the same way. That's kind of like the private cities on the ocean, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
the theory that people have pitched. So
Yeah.
it's a little more complicated than floating on water. You gotta
Yeah,
get
a
everything
little
out
bit.
there, and then
Well, because you would have to count. So it'd be like a bubble floating in the atmosphere, right? It would spin. It wouldn't just
yeah,
stay static. So you would have to have the habitat ensconced in a gyroscope in the center,
mhm,
right? So it would have to free float, kind of like a magnetic axle in an electric
yeah,
motor, which would be like probably pretty hard to build uh,
right,
in a place where you would have to do it all modularly and then lower it in, essentially.
yeah.
Like you wouldn't be able to like build a platform for building them unless it was the first example of one of them.
Well, I think you'd start off with like the International Space Station, and then you would move forward from there, and then just hop, skip, and a jump from one place to the next, and then
Yeah,
eventually get what's
I
it
would
called?
imagine setting up like an interplanetary cycler between the two, to where like there was
Right,
this sort of space station that would orbit both,
yeah,
and we could link up with it when it was close to Earth, and then just ride it to the point where we were in Venus's orbit briefly enough to just drop the
right.
things in.
A space railroad almost.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, we would just it would be like setting an asteroid into a particular orbit, except for the asteroid would be our space station. Yeah, not just
Yeah,
not
and
just low Earth orbit around Earth, but like a special orbit we invent to make it go around both planets, which you can do, right? So the only way we went to the moon was we created an orbit where a thing could go between Earth and the moon in a period.
now I'm gonna throw this up here because if I don't, I feel like then I've failed as a host here. Zach has said that he has walked on water, and I know that this is going to sound really out there, but there is a way for people to walk on water, but it's got to be a certain way. I don't know what
Yep.
it's called. I've seen it once, like the technical
Right.
stuff, what it's called.
Yeah. It can be.
But
Yeah. No. Literally, you have to
this
create.
isn't a religious thing. It by the way.
It can be done. Yeah. It's a phenomenon that can be recreated. Yeah. It's actually pretty neat. Um, I think doesn't it have to do with changing the salt
The
composition of the
dense,
water in
yeah,
part.
yeah. The density.
Right. Because
I,
like in the Dead Sea, you can literally float with no effort because of the salt content, for
yeah,
example.
yeah. So
Yeah, so
full
I mean, it
disclosure, I
stands to
saw it on
reason.
Detective Conan. Just saying.
Now, keeping balance would be hard.
Yeah,
You'd be more like
right.
stumbling on your hands and knees across the water at first,
Yeah,
uh, but if you kept your balance, it would probably be a lot like walking on a slippery balance beam.
right,
Wild. I can imagine. I can't imagine keeping my feet on water. I can't even stand on a skateboard.
right. I used to do skateboarding, okay, but not anymore. How does Law Zero idea bring us closer to God's plan? God blesses you in your interesting discussion.
Well, that's a matter of faith, isn't it? Right. I personally, my personal relationship, right? Um, for me, it brings us closer because it poses a plausible way for good to be freed from the bonds of hypothetical evil.
Yeah,
Right? Like we don't do a lot of good out of fear that we might do bad. And
yeah,
we build these systems that sublimate that fear into the way the system thinks about the world, right? So that we don't have to live in that fear. Um,
right.
and it's that fear itself that drives us from God, I think.
Yeah, I
That's
think.
that stops us having faith in each other.
I mean, that makes sense. I
And
think.
I think that's how Law Zero brings us closer because it strips away the illusion that we can put our fears sublimated away from ourselves into a system that can keep us safe from them.
I
When
always
in
thought about
reality,
security
it's
is like a
metabolizing.
form of it's security is a form of marketing towards fear.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the metabolysis of that fear that lets us come closer to God. I think.
Yeah. God bless you too. Your channel is great, by the way. Well, Z, I hope it's right. I had to kick off my co-host, or am I kicking off? I don't know. We'll figure it out.
So that was a
So,
good question. Thank you for it.
yeah.
Cool.
Well, I think this has been a
One
good
last
episode.
one last thing to leave off here
But
for next time because we got one
sure.
more. Uh, After you process Law Zero and you understand the basilisk effect, there's an important domain to look into it in because right now the realm of AI safety is dominated by what I would call the Yankowskiite perspective, the less wrong idea that human beings are going to have to make AI a certain way if we are to avoid the fear of
Yeah.
making it into something evil, right? Like it's literally a basilisk effect in process around this idea of what's called S risk, which if you've heard X risk, existential risk, that was their
Yeah.
jargon, right? Well, not totally their jargon. Nick Bostrom invented it separately, probably, but we can quibble over that later. S risk is suffering risk, right?
Yeah.
So if we were going to take a solution towards existential risk at a societal level and build some X risk preventative basilisks, right? Then why not build some S risk preventative basilisks? The problem
Right.
is that those create a thing within their own paradigm that we can call meta S risk, and that's what we can get into next time.
That's a good idea. I just trying to reach others through Christ. I'm glad you enjoy it. I just subbed on this channel. I like what these guys are doing. Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's super cool. We're glad you're with us.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Greg, where can we find you?
I'm usually reachable on X, but you can find me anywhere. At Design Heretic is a handle, all one word.
Okay.
If you don't see me on a platform with that, or if you do and I'm not responding, it's not because somebody's spoofing me. I'm not worth spoofing, right? But if you find me, then you can find me. But X is the best place to reach me. That's where I get back to people quick.
Makes
Also,
sense.
at the top of X, at the top of my X feed is the whole audiobook for Law Zero end to end, along with under that a link where you can download the MP3 for that audiobook so you can keep it locally. You can get the PDF, or you can get a formatted EPUB for your e-reader. So it's free, and it's for everybody to come take and read and learn and join us. So if you want to catch up and you have the stomach for 70 pages, then you can catch up to us for next week, and you can be on board with the meta S-risk conversation, because that was what we get into in the epilogue of the book.
Okay.
So
I listened to it on audiobook. It was very fun to listen to Orson Welles read. Has it been 2 hours already? Yes, it has. It's been 1 hour and 55 minutes.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Right. Well, if you guys
really
looking
does.
out for me,
It's
it's on X at AIConan90. My name's in Japanese underneath here. That's my Facebook page. But I'm barely ever on there anymore. So you can also get a hold of Zach, and he can contact with me. So check us out next week. We'll have another great episode.
Yep. Cheers, guys.
Continue for 2 more hours. Well, I mean, that cuts off at the replay. So
yep. Well,
thanks for watching, everybody. Yeah. We'll see you later, okay? Have a good day. Good day.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Pete Okerlund. I'd like to welcome you to WCW Nitro.
Brother, you think you know what it takes to beat Hollywood Hogan, who wants to climb in the ring and try out the largest arms in the world? Oh, stop.
You want to wrestle an inch more Ric Flair, you got to be able to walk that out and style and profile. Woo!
You really think you're ready for a spin?
You really think you're ready for the Scorpion Deathlock? You think you're ready for a fatal encounter?
This is why they call me the total package. If you have a pain threshold to withstand the butcher rack, let's find out.
Hallo, hier ist Alex Wright. Wenn ihr High-Flying Wrestling Action wollt, Spinning Sidekick, Top Turnbuckle Dropkick, dann nehmt mich. Der Sieg ist euch sicher. Versprecht euch.
Oh yeah! Watch the flying elbow drop off the top rope. Not only beat people 1, 2, 3, but I hurt him real bad.
It only takes one of 1,000 holds. I think you're man enough for the challenge. You better be ready to wrestle, because you know, when you get in the ring with Eddie Guerrero, it's going to be high-flying and exciting.
Hey, anytime you feel froggy, man, I'll slap on the buzz killer and rip your shoulder right out of socket. Wolfpack style! Hey, funky boy. Like there's a choice here? Good God! Pick the man with the plan. Pick deep.
Hey, all you suckers out there, you wanna play the game? You wanna play with the big boy? Put your feet on the button, cause when you go down 110th Street, it's gonna be on like Netbone, sucker. This is Booker T from Harlem Heat, hardcore OG brother from 110th Street. The minute you punks got the guts to step up to the plate, push the button.
Yo, Chico, you selected Scott Hall?
Get ready for a wild ride on the outside. Hey there! How'd you like to get power pop? Come on, take me. I'm begging you, take me.
You think you got the courage to step in the ring? I think you're gonna wind up in a snap neck with a choke slam.
Technical wrestler, high flyer, brawler. It don't matter what you consider yourself to be. When you're in the ring with the crippler, you're a loser.